Oh, hi, Blair. See you over there. Must have been getting a coffee.
I was.
I got to do the same. I don't have mine here. It's downstairs. I realized it's 9 o'clock and I ran up and went, oh my gosh, I haven't got my coffee.
Vital.
Vital. Yeah.
All right, can everyone see the learners and leaders logo?
No, not yet, but it says has started screen sharing. Can anybody else see it?
Not yet.
No, I cannot.
Can you see the Mount logo right now?
No.
That's all right. You're building anticipation for everyone in the waiting room.
Ah, there you go. Thank you. Got it. Awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna admit everyone now.
Okay. All right, Peter, whenever you're ready.
We've lost the background again for the.
Yeah, whenever you are ready, Peter.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the final emission people to come up on my screen. Anyway, I'm Dr. Peter Mumriket, and I want to welcome everyone to our annual Learners and Leaders Conference. First and foremost, this is a different environment for us. We usually have this live, and there's always challenges when you do something virtually, and I'm thrilled the organizing committee has done such an outstanding job. We have wonderful faculty and staff at the Mount that have really gone above and beyond this year to ensure students have the exact same, fabulous experience they would have if they were on campus. And big lead on this has been Dr. Sandy Finley, who's worked on this conference with me for years. She's a good friend of mine, and she's backed by an amazing team. I never want to forget anybody, so I'm going to just say team in general. And I also have to thank several other people, and I know we want to get to our panel, so I'm going to be a little quick here. I really want to thank our community college partners. We started inviting students and faculty from the community college roughly 10 to 12 years ago, and they've been outstanding participants in our conference. They come, they ask questions, they're engaged, and from my perspective and from the Mount's perspective, the community college has been a longtime partner in providing education to students in Atlantic Canada and then together globally to the world. So they're an outstanding place to go, and we've partnered on this event with them successfully for years, and we really appreciate the faculty that bring the students and attend, and we hope our community college students consider the Mount if they consider a 2+2 agreement later on. You will find the Mount is an absolute wonderful institution. I think it's by far the best in Atlantic Canada. I also want to thank our longtime sponsor, the Center for Women in Business. The center has been, from my perspective, an inspiration to female entrepreneurs in Atlantic Canada for years now. And just by its mere existence, they've encouraged entrepreneurs. They run networking events. They run professional development events. The head of the center, Tanya Prisk, is absolutely amazing. And they've really gone above and beyond in the last 10 years to work with students, to encourage entrepreneurship as a career option for all students, and really be role models on campus for students. So we really want to extend that thank you to them as well. The one message I'd have to students today, guys, and it's going to be shorter than it would be if I was on the stage, which you might be thankful of, is you have to network with people to be successful. Everyone is starting basically at the start of a race, and the shotgun goes off and it's go, and some people just don't leave the blocks at the same time as others. And you have an opportunity today to reach out to the people that present to you. You have an opportunity to reach out to the various panels, other students that might share similar interests, and start to forge relationships. I would urge you to make use of LinkedIn and Twitter and so forth. And you guys have something in your hands. It's a magic little card. And if you email any of our panelists 9 times out of 10, or even anyone in the business community, and say, I am a student and I'm interested in this, or I'm interested in meeting you, the response you get back is fabulous. And in fact, sometimes I wish I could still bring that card out, because people are so receptive to meet with students and people that want to further their education. So I would urge you today to make those connections and reach out. Last but not least, I wanted to bring your attention to something that is really neat. If you're at the Melt and you're studying or in our strategic human resource major, we've just become accredited for the Charter Professional in Human Resource designation. And that's an absolute fantastic designation. When we first introduced our strategic human resource major, that was kind of on a list of things we'd like to achieve. And we've been working with the Human Resource Society of Nova Scotia, in particular, Nick Beynon, who has done an outstanding job with Nicholas Deal in getting this accreditation approved. And I think our students will benefit, and our future community college students will benefit from this designation. I'm going to turn it over to Nick briefly. He's going to talk a little bit more, and then we'll go right into our panel from there. Thank you again so much for attending. Sandy, thank you for everything you do for our students and to all our team. And thank you to the panelists who have taken time out of their day to attend. Nick, go right ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say it's been so great to work with MSVU. The staff there are fantastic. And the program that we assessed, we had to do an accreditation for it, and so we did a deep dive into the program, and it was very exhaustive. You guys, anyone registered in the MSVU Strategic HR Management Program, you're in good hands. It covered, more than covered, what we needed to ensure that you could bypass the NKE, the National Knowledge Exam, on your pathway to the designation. So all that's required is you complete the program with at least a GPA of 2.7, and then you apply to us. We confirm that you're in good standing and that you've got the 2.7 in the right program, and then that's it. You join a very elite group. There's we've met with many universities across the province here, and sadly, some of the HR programs just aren't enough top-notch level like MSVU, but MSVU does join some elite company in the form of St. Mary's University and NSCC, which Peter's already mentioned is on the call, so good morning to you as well. Kim Long's class, great to have you guys here. So the NSCC, they already know about this, they know what a benefit is to your resume, so we're looking forward to connecting with all the MSVU students in the future. And Holland College, you've got it over in PI too, and it's great to hear that you're joining the conference this morning. So congratulations, and we look forward to seeing this accreditation flourish for both organizations, and of course for the benefit of you, the students.
Nick, can I ask a question quickly?
Yes.
It's a 2.7 GPA for students to start the designation. Can they, do they get exemptions? I'm assuming they get some exemptions from the courses that they've done at the Mount toward the CPHR courses that you have to take?
Yeah, so
That's
right now,
standardized?
if you went through our normal pathway, you need to complete 9 courses as a prerequisite to complete the exam.
Okay.
None of that is required for MSVU students that are in good standing. They don't have to do any of the courses. They don't need to write the exam. Basically the exam, when we accredited your program, we basically look to see if it's asking and covering the same areas as our national knowledge exam. And the answer was yes. So it seemed fruitless to have them have to do multiple exams for the exact same material.
Okay, so when they graduate with the BBA with a major in strategic human resource management, they enroll in the CPHR and automatically get their designation because of that accreditation?
They skip the first step. So there's 2 steps. They would complete the first step and they would officially be CPHR candidates.
Okay.
And then after they acquire 3 years of applied HR experience, then they can apply for that finish line, the last step, the experience, validation of experience. And then they would have the full designation.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you. I
That's
just wanted to
fantastic.
clarify for me for advising purposes and things like that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Okay, awesome. So thank you everyone for being here. We talked a little bit about the introduction for this conference. Welcome to our 46th annual MSVU Learners and Leaders Business and Tourism Conference. We're delighted that you're able to attend us, and thank our distinguished panelists for giving their time to be here today. Before I introduce the panelists, I would like to take a moment to just tell you about the Learners and Leaders Conference and about our major sponsor, the Center of Women in Business. Peter already mentioned already, we have been hosting this conference for 46 years, and the name has changed over the years, but the purpose has not. We seek to provide our students this opportunity to bring classroom lessons to life by allowing our students to showcase their knowledge, skills, and diverse talents to local business and industry professionals who in turn provide our students with individual insight into the world of business and tourism. This year does look a bit different from other years because we cannot all meet face to face, which can be disappointing, but it does not make the conference any less valuable. Thank you to all who have come out today, and we hope you all take away new and valuable knowledge from today's opportunities. The Center of Women in Business has been our longest supporter. It is a leader in entrepreneurial growth and is the only university-based business department center for women in Canada. They are located on the 4th floor of McCain Center. You may have already passed by that area, and the team is led by Tanya Prisk, Executive Director, and a group of dedicated staff who offer their skills, training, and resources to women entrepreneurs across mainland Nova Scotia and in all stages of business development. The center opened in 1992, and next year will celebrate its 30th year anniversary of providing unparalleled service to women entrepreneurs in all aspects of business ownership, from business management training to international trade missions. One final housekeeping note: if students have any questions for our panel, please type them in the chat box, and if time permits, we will provide the panelists these questions after our panel proceeds. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists, and I will start with Nick Beynon. Nick Beynon has enjoyed a career in human resources, winning a few industry awards like Rising Star, HR Award of Excellence, and an Innovation Award. He found an exciting opportunity with Chartered Professionals in Human Resources of Nova Scotia in a role that allowed him to play a more influential role in the HR position. He accepted the position of CEO of Chartered Professionals in Human Resources of Nova Scotia, and since then, he has expanded the influence of HR beyond Nova Scotia in the whole Atlantic region in the creation of CPHR Atlantic. I will then move on to introduce Danielle Kamau. Danielle Kamau. Danielle Kamau graduated from Dalhousie University in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Upon graduation, he started working with Enterprise Rent a Car as a management trainee, and from there he worked his way up to different managerial roles to where he is today. Daniel is currently an area manager overseeing 8 rental branches and 29 employees. Enterprise began as a glimmer in the eye of entrepreneur in 1957, but today Enterprise Holding is a family-owned world-class portfolio of brands. I will then introduce Susan Malana. Susan Malana graduated from the University of British Columbia with a Bachelor of Commerce, specializing in human resources and industrial relations. She started her human resource career in financial industry and then transitioned to the retail industry as human resources and operations manager with the Hudson Bay Company. She is currently the Regional Director of Human Resources for the Canadian region, which consists of 4 properties in Nova Scotia and 2 properties in New Brunswick. I will finally introduce Blair Thompson. Blair Thompson is a talent attraction specialist with Grant Thornton and has been with the firm for over 10 years and a proud MSVU alumni. Grant Thompson is the largest public accounting firm in Atlantic Canada and the 5th largest public accounting firm in Canada. Blair is also proud to mention Grant Thornton has been recognized for 13 consecutive years as one of the best Canadian workplaces. We'll now move forward to the panel questions. I will go to each panelist one time and then we'll move on to the next question. So the first question we have for everyone today is, what does your ideal candidate look like in terms of personal and professional values? We can start with our first, which would be Nick Bennett.
Okay, got my mute off. I thought I'd tackle this a slightly different. Instead of values, I thought I'd tackle it just a bit different, so just bear with me. So of course, there's the minimum technical skills that we're looking for. I'm gonna skip that. I think two things that I really wanna highlight is, I really appreciate when someone's creative, especially in this industry and in human resources. So I often throw out weird, wacky questions where I really don't expect anyone to know the answer, but I just want them to be creative. And often I'll preface it with that. I'll indicate to them, you shouldn't know this. And if you do, then I'm going to find another question. I want you to make up an answer. So I've asked silly questions like, eclipse. Why is the eclipse, like the moon we know is so much smaller than the sun? Why does it perfectly cover the sun? And, the answer is quite interesting. But what I'm looking for is a really, really creative explanation to behind that. And I'm just trying to find how they can approach things very differently. And I think the smartest thing I've ever heard is Richard Branson said he knows his strengths and weaknesses quite well, and the smartest thing he's ever done is recognize his weaknesses and then get people around him that think very differently and have the strengths that he doesn't have. So I'm looking for often someone that's creative and then brings a very different perspective when they approach weird questions like that. It's just one you can't really prepare for. Another thing, another weird sort of answer to this is, and it sounds blunt, but no one wants to hire a dull person. No one wants to be friends with a dull person. No one wants to be dull. So I think it's really important to express, as a candidate that you've got passions. Even if that passion has no bearing on my life or interest in my life, I think we've all been there where someone's talked about something and there's a glimmer in their eye and you really don't care about the topic, but you really appreciate how much they do. A perfect example, I was taking a train once to Quebec City from here in Halifax. And I went to that dome car, or that observation car, and a guy pulled out a walkie-talkie and he was getting so excited because they were calling like code E93A. And I didn't know what any of that meant, but he was so excited. And, I couldn't help but feel excited for him. And, that brought the glimmer in his eye brought one to mine. It was just contagious. So, whatever your passion is, make sure you bring it. People want to know this person, they see value in this or that. They're not just a dull person. So, but I'll pass it over to other people. Thank you.
That sounds like a great testing character, some great advice. Danielle, would we be able to go to you? What does your ideal candidate look like in terms of personal and professional values?
Yeah, I think Nick kind of nailed it on the head. We're looking for somebody who's motivated, who comes in with a great attitude into our interview process. Our interview process has recently changed from 3 interviews down to 2 to make it a little bit less tenuous, but hey, it may sound a little bit cliche for some of the things that I'm going to say, but we're obviously looking for people with great communication skills that come in, with a professional attitude, that are willing and interested in getting into a job which has both sales, service. We're looking for good leaders. At the end of the day, our management trainee program, we're looking for people to lead businesses at one point. So being able to communicate how you're a great leader is super important. We're looking for people who are flexible, so people who can relocate on tasks that you may get asked to do, on hours from time to time. Lastly, we're looking for people who are results driven, people who are competitive and, want to win at the end of the day. So again, I know a couple of those things sounded a little bit cliche, but if you come in with all of those things, it's pretty hard to turn it down.
Definitely makes you look noticeable compared to everyone else. And Susan, can we turn to you? What does your ideal candidate look like in terms of personal and professional values?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I don't know if people picked up on, but I'm from the hotel industry. And so, and hence my background, the thought that we will be able to travel again and we'll be able to enjoy kind of connecting and going to different areas. So for our industry, one of the biggest things is being able to make connections with people. And so when you come into that interview, I hope that you're going to be able to make the connection with whoever you're interviewing with and really build that relationship. And for us, a lot of times for kind of the more entry level positions, we say we can absolutely train you in terms of the job specifics. But what we can't change is how you present yourself. You know, are you someone that will come in and smile and be upbeat? You know, because if you come in and you have that attitude where, you know, everything is negative, or you are really kind of low level energy, that's not something for our industry. Our industry is so fast paced where everything is always changing. And one of the things that we always say is that if you'd like to have something where it is every day is exactly the same, this is not the right industry for you. So you need to be able to show that you can absolutely, and here's that word that we've all kind of used all the time in 2020, but to be able to pivot on a dime with whatever comes your way. Because when you're dealing with people and you're dealing with their experiences, things will change moment to moment. That one guest will want things a particular way, but your next guest may want things totally different. So for us, it's really about the attitude and how you present yourself. You know, where do you want to go? And that's not to say that everybody has to want to be a director or the general manager of a hotel. But certainly if you have aspirations, how do you feel that you're going to get there? And what contributions do you feel that you can make to our team? And if you highlight those sorts of things, it will really help in terms of being chosen for that next step.
Totally, some great advice. And Blair, do you have anything to add on to what your ideal candidate would look like in terms of personal and professional values?
Lots of great comments already from my other panelists, and Susan, you know, spoke really well in terms of our industry as an accounting firm. We're obviously looking for people with some technical skills in accounting, but we're also so very client focused and driven. And I think especially after 2020 with changing deadlines and many changes in the tax industry, flexibility and as Susan said, pivoting on a dime has been really important to our work and to our people. And that's something we've always been looking for with their candidates. As well, with a lot of our candidates that we do start, either for co-ops or full-time, we're looking for people who are interested in that professional growth and opportunity. In our industry, people are learning new skills year on year to kind of build up their skill set as they hopefully embark on the CPA designation. So it's not for, you know, it's not an industry or a role for someone who's not looking to continue to grow and learn and develop. The other piece I think would just be real ability for teaming. We work in multiple teams and with multiple clients at a time, so you're constantly engaging with others, and it goes back to that client service piece as well. So those would definitely be some big parts that we're looking for, and a big part of our questions as well for candidates to demonstrate through our recruitment process.
Yes, that makes sense. It's definitely some great advice there. So I'm going to move on to our second question, and Nick, I'll go back to you with this one. If you use social media when reviewing applicants, what would an ideal candidate social media look like?
Yeah, this is always an interesting question. It's been coming up for years, and I hate to tell you this. Probably many hiring managers or HR professionals will tell you that they just don't do it. It's unethical. I'm afraid to admit that there are many that do. So you do have to take this quite seriously. So I think my answer to this, my favorite thing to see is that I can't see anything. You know, especially on the more fun side of social media. LinkedIn's a bit different. That's LinkedIn, I do want to see something that mirrors your application, your resume, things that, you know, if you've had the interview, they align with your interview comments. But when it comes to the more social ones, the Facebooks and the Twitters and Snapchats, I don't want to see anything. I want to see that you're smart enough to know to dial up your privacy settings, and whether they are appropriate or not, I will never know. That's what I want to see.
Yes, the difference between our personal and professional social media makes a huge difference. Can I swing over to you, Danielle? Do you have anything to say about what your ideal candidate social media would look like to you?
Yeah, I wish I had something separate to offer, but very similar. Really not going into people's social media. Again, you brought up LinkedIn, and I'm not a recruiter. I usually get a few candidates, but I think the best advice that I could give, recruiters see a lot of LinkedIn profiles. Just make sure that they can skim through. It's concise. It has a professional picture. It has a summary. It states, your volunteer and work experience, a customized skill section, and really just something that's simple. But again, I wish I could provide some more info, but Nick kind of nailed it. We're not skimming through people's social media or anything like that. More so just LinkedIn.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Susan, if you were looking to review your applicant's social media, what would the ideal candidate social media look like to you?
So again, as with Nick and Dan, we do not look at social media other than LinkedIn, but we all know that there is that potential. So what I will say is, people have made the comment of my Facebook is that, geez, all you ever post on there is about your kids, their hockey, their soccer, and really that's about it. And so I would say that is my advice, that be very careful of what you post, because you never know who might potentially gain access to it. So, when you're at that party and there's that keg of beer and someone dares you to, do a handstand while drinking, that's not something that you want to have posted on your Facebook page for someone to potentially see. And there's been a lot of interesting things happening in the world in the last year. So certainly lots of political things that people could potentially comment on. And again, I'm going to say, I would advise steering away from doing that as well, because sometimes people can definitely make judgments. And even, when you talk about you're passionate about whatever it might be, whether it be, hockey and the fact that potentially we were not able to live stream hockey games. Some people I saw making some comments and again, very passionate, but again, be careful how you voice your passion.
Yeah, some excellent advice there. And how about you, Blair? If you were reviewing your applicant's social media, what would an ideal candidate social media look like to you?
I think I would echo the same as everyone else. And I think I just would add, an extra layer that, we as a company, we work with multiple clients, right? And I don't even know, and many of our people don't know all of our clients across Nova Scotia, right? So I always think of an example of, people posting reviews or anything like that with their name associated. Many bigger organizations have media monitors and are checking into who these people might be, and you would never want to kind of retie back to an organization if they had a relationship, right? As a piece to think about. And the other part I would also mention is, it's not just the employers who may be looking at your Facebook after you're hired. For example, colleagues that you'll be working with. And I know that a lot of people are adding each other onto Instagram or Facebook once they get hired and are working with others. So it's just good to think about that as well, because I know some coworkers can dig deep into people's history. So you always want to think about that as you start to network once you're in an organization as well, and making sure your kind of best foot continues to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great comment you made. So I'm going to move on to.
Sorry,
No
I
worries.
know people love stories and they're usually quite memorable. And Blair just reminded me of a story that really emphasizes his point. It's not just as a candidate, but when you're an employee, you have to be careful too. There's a prime example. This is the story time. Toronto firefighters were making a movement trying to recruit more females into the industry because, of course, it's very male dominated. And there was a couple male staff who had some very chauvinistic comments on social media, and it went quite viral, and they ended up losing their job, and it went through human rights, and it was all kinds of messy for everyone, but they didn't come out of it very well because of their, they thought this is freedom of speech and it's my social media, I'm doing it after hours, I can do whatever I want, and that wasn't the case. They paid for it dearly.
Yeah, it doesn't sound pleasant. So on to our third question here, and I'm going to mix things up. Blair, I'm coming to you. What do applicants successful in obtaining an interview have on their cover letter and resume that others may not?
That's a great question. So I guess at the initial stages when we're looking at resumes and cover letters, I wish I had more time to spend 5 solid minutes reading it super in depth. But when you're looking at it at the onset from a recruiter perspective, you might be spending, literally 60 seconds. We might have hundreds of applications as you're going through. So I think first off, just making sure it's clear, it's clear, concise. I'm very traditional way that I like to see, especially when we're recruiting for co-op and new grad positions, seeing that education up front, seeing what degree, what major, because that is important to our profession. As well, making sure that your experience, reads well and tells a little bit of a story. Especially, if it's not clear from the title you had, or maybe the organization smaller, may not be as well known. It's always great to put a little blurb or a little paragraph just to highlight that for the person reading it. And as well, having a good size font. I've graduated a few years ago from my intro, so my eyesight is not what it used to be when I was in university. So a nice, good size font is really appreciated, I'm sure, by others on the panel. And with a cover letter, I don't just want a regurgitation of your resume. I want a little bit of a story on top of that, something different. Again, in September is our big recruitment timeframe, and I can easily skim through 500, 600, 700 resumes in a 3 or 4 day period with helping out with recruitment across the country. So something interesting, and as well, especially for cover letters, that's something I think gets a bit more scrutinized once it gets to the hiring managers, and they always appreciate something different than what they're reading just on the resume. So I would definitely think about that. And I think it's always great to just put, a little bit of a personality to why Grand Thornton or wherever you're applying, and because you can really tell when it is copied and pasted from 20 other applications you've put in there. So I think spending that extra 10-20 minutes and adding something to show to me that it's not just your standard template that you've been regurgitating, because that does happen. We get often every year, unless in 2020 for some reason, but every year I get cover letters addressed to another recruiter at another firm, or to another firm in general. And that's such an easy thing. And I understand that mistakes happen, but that's your first impression to an organization. So you always want to make sure that you're just double, triple checking that all those pieces align, and that those are all, just personalized and written well.
Yeah, some great tips there to stand out. Susan, I'm going to swing over to you. What would a successful applicant have in obtaining an interview have on their resume or cover letter that others may not?
Right. So on resumes, one of the concerns can potentially be if someone has kind of moved around a lot, very short-term positions, what has happened with those? And if there are some very valid explanations, I would suggest putting that explanation on the resume, because otherwise, sometimes I will bypass those individuals because I'll say, yeah, that person spent a year in each of these, or maybe even less than a year. And so, but if I understand why, then I will kind of discount that hopping around. And if there is a gap, because sometimes, come an interview, somebody will say to me, I took a year off because I had an ailing family member that I wanted to stay at home and take care of. Again, put that right into the resume. That's not the norm, but when we're trying to compare you against all of these other candidates, there's so many different things that will make us kind of discount you, that you want to kind of help us fill in those gaps. And when it's the cover letter, what I would say is show that you've done some research on the company. To Blair's point, I have also received cover letters where it's the wrong company, it's the wrong position. So make sure that you're going back and reviewing that. And with the ads, there typically is or the postings, there typically is, here's the person that I'm looking for. So go back and try to match up and tell me that you've hit, if it's these 5 points that I'm looking for, here I've hit all 5 points and here's how I've hit them. Make it easy for me to figure out that you're a really good candidate. And so sometimes what people will do is, if they haven't explained kind of the unusual nuances in their resume, they'll take the time and do that in their cover letters. So between the two of them, they'll kind of make sure that they've hit off on those key points.
Yeah, some great information there that we can use. So moving on to Danielle, do you have anything you can say what successful applicants have on their resume or cover letter that stick out to you compared to others?
Yeah, some great information, passed along by everybody. At the end of the day, we realized for our management trainee program, we're looking for abilities and competencies more so than experience. So I guess something in a cover letter or resume that others may not is not the most important thing to us. We're really just inviting anybody that qualifies for the position for a first interview for us to really do some digging, to find out whether those competencies and those abilities are a good fit for us. And usually if they can demonstrate that well, that they have the customer service sales, they have the leadership abilities, they've got relevant examples, the experience matters less so to us. So again, I think just the simple things, being grammatically correct, having font that we're able to read, not having spelling mistakes or anything like that. But again, at the end of the day, it's not a make or break for us. Again, we're looking for people with, great abilities and great competencies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Some great advice there. And how about you, Nick? Is there anything that successful candidates have on their cover letter or resume that stick out to you that others may not have?
Sure. Yeah, one of them's on my screen. I'm going to attempt to be a weatherman, but this right here, that can certainly help. Having the designation, and again, congratulations MSVU, you guys are on your way. This designation, it's a nationally recognized level of achievement in the field of HR. So whether the hiring manager has it themselves or not, many of them are well aware of it, and they do recognize that that's just a stamp of approval, that you've got, that you've, if you're a candidate, it's a stamp of approval you've satisfied and have a solid foundation of academic achievement. So, but if you have completed, then it's a commitment to the national standard of excellence and sets a benchmark for the practice of effective human resources. The only other thing, I'm going to echo, I've heard, I think everyone talk about doing your homework and understanding where you're applying, right? So you're not applying to the wrong place and you've got wrong information in there. But in particular, if I can give one additional thought, just look at the corporate values Again, I think a lot of recruiters are hiring for fit. There's a saying that I always use: hire for fit, train for skill. So if we're hiring for fit, we're looking for the cultural match, right? We're trying to do that matchmaking. So if you look at our corporate values, and for instance, one of them is, I don't know, teamwork. You know, make sure that your resume says you're a team player. You've played on a soccer team, or in your cover letter, you talk about how important teamwork is. So just matching it to what the corporate values are. And another thing I just want to share, just to keep in mind, just to emphasize everything you've heard from the rest of the very talented panelists. There's such a thing as a filter out and a filter in process in recruitment, right? So in the beginning, I think Blair described it perfectly. In the beginning, you might have 100 applications. At that point, you're not filtering in, you're filtering out. You're trying to get rid of the junk. So you're probably not reading everything. So the more concise you can be, the more likely they're going to capture that stuff during the filter out, and you'll make it to that smaller pile where then the recruiter goes a bit deeper and starts the filter in process, right? That's where they're starting to look for that cultural value alignment. Okay, they've got teamwork. Teamwork is our cultural value. Perfect. Filter in. So you just, to survive that filter out, you just want to make sure it's concise, it's tight, it's to the point. There's nothing worse for a recruiter than getting an 8-page resume. That's not going to make it, I guarantee.
Yeah, some great advice from everyone. I'm sure we can take that and apply it to our own resumes and cover letters.
And actually, before we move on, one point I just also want to make is that in today's world, there are so many companies that use an applicant system. And so our company is one of them. So you may not even have the opportunity to send that resume and that cover letter. So you want to make sure that when you're applying on that system, that you put all of the information there. That I've had candidates who have put kind of the bare bones, and the bare bones certainly is not going to get you that interview. Take the time. I know it is a lot of work, but what you can always do is make sure you have your resume on the screen next to you, and you can do a copy and paste typically into the system so that you can get as full the information in there as possible. And on our system, we allow you the opportunity to also upload your resume. So take the time to do that, because again, it might be slightly different than what you're putting into the system, because the system may not ask you for some of the information that you would like us to get. And when you're able to upload your resume, the other thing that you can do is change up your resume to include a cover letter as your first page. And then that's your way of kind of being able to send in all of that information, even though it's through an applicant system.
Yeah, that's some great advice. I didn't even know that myself. So I'm going to move on to our fourth question here. And I'm going to start with you, Dan. What are the top 3 things you look for in an applicant's resume? I know we touched up on this a little bit, but maybe any other specifics you can point out that stand out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're looking to see if they meet the minimum qualification on the education side of things would be the first thing that we would look at. Work ethic, you know, I think somebody alluded to earlier, has the candidate changed jobs in the past years? And if so, why they've changed so many jobs? You know, work experience, volunteering, what has the candidate experienced in the past? Hobbies, interests, things that make them unique. And I know Nick touched on it too, just tailoring your resume to the business that you're applying for. You know, again, it's really important for all of the things I've outlined today for our resumes and our cover letters to target our business. Again, we want to be such a great fit for you, and we want you to be a really great fit for us. And that's super important. And sometimes it's overlooked when doing a resume.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely agreeable there. And how about you, Nick? Is there any tell me your top 3 things you look for in an applicant's resume.
Okay, so top 3, I mentioned before passions. I really want to see the passion. You know, recognizing that we're talking to students, chances are your resume is probably not quite long. So to beef that up, often what I look for in, you know, the entry level roles is someone that's gained experience through volunteer. You maybe haven't had the same opportunities career-wise, so volunteer. You know, you can beef up your resume that way. And I'm going to double down on something Susan said that I'm a strong believer of. She talked about smiling, coming into an interview and smiling. Just seeing some sort of positivity around your application, and then of course in the interview for sure. So I have a saying I always tell my hiring managers, you want someone that's going to roll with the punches, be adaptable, pivot, all those positive things Susan mentioned, then hire smilers. And you can pick that up in interviews, sorry, resumes.
Yeah, I agree. And Blair, could you tell me your top 3 things that you look for in your applicant's resume?
Sure. You know, similar to some of the other panelists, big part of our pillars is community or volunteer involvement in general. So I always like to see, even at student level, that opportunity that they've been able to, you know, join clubs or even be on leadership teams with clubs, as well as taking up different volunteer opportunities. We know that your experience may not be the same as, you know, someone, you know, 5 or 10 years out in their career. So just seeing that interest to give back to the community and to be part of it is definitely key for us. As well, I think when we're looking at the resumes, I want to see that you're not, you know, just further to that community point, you're not just a student or you're not just a worker. We do want to see well-rounded profiles, you know, to see that you are able to balance more than one thing at a time. And aside from that, I mean, we do, with our line of work, do look at marks. So obviously we do have certain minimums that we're looking for as part of that. So that's usually part of our process, just to ensure the candidate will be successful if they go into the CPA program. And those be kind of the big things. And as well, Nick, you know, kind of hit it in the head about, you know, kind of seeing a resume that comes through that, you know, has that kind of positive point or personality. So I do think that is important as well when you're kind of reading through and it looks, you know, interesting as you make your decisions.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We have to find a way to put our character on paper.
Yeah.
So Susan, I'm going to swing back to you for this question. What are your top 3 things you look for in your applicant's resume?
And so, you know, everybody has really touched on it. The experience we're obviously looking for, but sometimes if the person doesn't have that experience, it's, you know, what else have they done in terms of community involvement, in terms of volunteerism, in terms of maybe organizations that they've joined while they were in school. You know, did they hold a post in some of those organizations? Do they play on a sports team? Because that certainly indicates then, you know, the teamwork aspect. You know, so all of those things will contribute to kind of that positive image on your resume. You know, and we've all kind of focused on the word positivity, but I also wanted to just kind of touch on the fact of negativity that, you know, and unfortunately, I know that sometimes we end up being in a position or with a company that we absolutely hate for whatever reason. And maybe it was your worst experience ever because they had very bad practices, for instance. So what I would suggest to you is that you don't want to make that statement in your interview, that it may not have been the best fit for you. It was time for you to move on. But when you kind of focus on those aspects, and maybe it was, you know, a very unsafe environment. Again, that's not something that you want to communicate. So be very careful in terms of how much information you share around those negative experiences, because then the thought becomes, because I know, you know what, I think that we're a wonderful workplace and, you know, we have recognition that confirms it. However, we're not perfect. There are going to be opportunities that will come up where there will be challenges. So what are you going to be saying to others outside of our environment, either while you're still working with us or when you leave, will always then potentially be a concern for me.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense there. This is something you have to look out for. I'm going to move on to our fifth question. And I'm going to start with you, Susan, actually. Where do you see opportunities for jobs in your organization over the next 2 to 4 years? And are there many positions available for new graduates and room for them to advance within the first couple of years? How does that work?
So I'm going to say that my pre-COVID answer is unfortunately very different from my answer today, because right now with our industry going through huge challenges, that we don't have as many opportunities as we would have had pre-COVID, because we do still have a significant portion of our workforce that is still not back at the workforce. However, what I will tell you is that we know that we're going to rebound, and we also know that Newcastle is a company that will continue to grow. So when I first joined the team, we were one hotel in Canada, and so now multiple properties, and that continues to be a focus for us in terms of growing our portfolio. So we know that when people come in, and especially if you're willing to relocate to another area, that there will be opportunities, because as you grow in your position and learn other experiences, you'll be ready for that next promotion. And we're a company that believes in promoting from within. So all of our positions are always posted internally, first of all. And we talk about, who are promotable candidates from any location. Is it their next opportunity going to be in their same location, or are they willing to relocate? So that's something that we always have a focus on. And so as much as it's challenging right now, we talk about food and beverage being one of those key opportunity areas, that if someone has that food and beverage experience, that is an area where people can really grow, because there typically aren't as many individuals kind of looking for those management opportunities, and they don't have the right breadth of experience. So as much as it will be challenging in the next couple of years, still we are a company that is growing. And what I would say is, for the industry, look for the resort properties that, they tend to be very busy during the summer. So if you're looking for that summer work experience opportunity, that's where you should really focus your efforts, because everybody is looking to get out of the house and go somewhere. So in Atlantic Canada, they have been going to our resort properties, and so that's where the opportunities are right now.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense there. So I'm gonna swing over to Nick now. Where do you see opportunities for jobs in your organization over the next 2 to 4 years? And are there many positions available for new graduates and room for them to advance in the first couple of years?
Yeah, so I say this question is really not applicable to me. We're not much of an employer. There's 3 of us here, and we don't have any turnover, but I will just switch it a bit and just focus more on the industry in general. So I can tell you, if you are interested in an HR career, there's one HR job board for the Atlantic region that we run, and I'll post it on the chat in a second, but CPHR-Atlantic.ca, the only HR job board in the region. And so all of the job opportunities in the industry are going up there. So I will say that. But in general, one thing I have noticed in HR, a lot of us HR professionals are built very similarly. We have tons and tons of skills, but one that we often don't have, now I'm stereotyping, there are the anomalies that do, but the analytical skills are not typically one of our strengths. Now, if you do have that strength, you're a rare commodity, and I've seen HR departments desperate to find those folks that can have both the soft skills and those hard skills and combine them. Because every HR department is being pushed now. We can't just be a cost center, right? We can't just continue to cost the business, but we have to, and we sit on so much data that there's departments depending on us. It's sort of like from a business partner perspective, right? So we partner with the IT department and the facilities department, and they want us to prove ourselves and do something about all the data that we have. So we have turnover stats, engagement surveys, turnover costs, return on investment on training spend. And the average HR person typically, not always, but typically struggles to convey and do something with that data, to analyze it, to make some significant changes, or to prove what you're doing is working, or to prove what you're doing isn't, and you need to do something differently. So if you have those skill sets, that is very popular these days.
Yeah, some great advice there, Nick. Thank you. So Blair, I'm going to ask you, where do you see opportunities for jobs in your organization in the next 2 to 4 years? Are there positions available for new graduates, and is there room for them to advance in the first couple of years?
Yeah, so I can speak. We actually have a co-op posting up for accounting grads on our career website, discoveryourpurple.ca. So it closes this Sunday if you haven't applied already. Definitely encourage it for multiple locations in Nova Scotia. But yeah, we absolutely take a lot of, either winter or summer co-op is primarily, and we hope to turn those, 3 to 4 month candidates into long-term full-time employees. With that said, most accounting firms are a little bit different in their structure than other organizations, whereas normally we have our new hires or an accountant level for a couple of years, move on to the senior accountant level for 2 to 3 years, and then hopefully manager, and then other roles in the organization. So we kind of have a built-in progression as part of it, of course, with good performance and meeting your metrics and all those things as part of it. But so it's already kind of built in. But again, of course, performance and their interest in the work also drives those pieces, right, for long-term success. And we're pretty, we do hire a large group, hire the largest group of accountants in Nova Scotia with the firm. And I would see that, hopefully growing. I'm always, we really enjoy hiring people directly from university or from community colleges as well. So I'm hoping that will continue to increase in the years to come. And as well, I would see more outside of our traditional accounting scope. As Nick said, data, I think in all professions is growing in terms of how that's understood. So I could see more technology or data roles coming up in the future with our work. And as well, even for different groups within our organization, such as consumer insolvency or even more of our advisory practice as well, taking on more new grads. So hoping to see more of that in the next few years.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, technology is definitely a great skill to have nowadays. Anything to do with that. And how about you, Dan? I don't believe I've asked you yet. Where do you see opportunities for jobs in your organization in the next 2 to 4 years? And how many are there positions available for new graduates, an opportunity for them to advance in the first couple of years?
Yes, we do have opportunities. We believe, at Enterprise, we've kind of hit our bottom at this point. Obviously 6 months ago, and being in a similar business to Susan, it's been a tough sledding for 10 months for sure. But we certainly see opportunities within the next 2 to 4 years as our fleet starts to pick back up, and we have some consumer confidence, and the vaccines start to happen, and our travel starts to pick up again. So what a great opportunity for a new grad is our management trainee program. Very similar. We start everybody at the same position. I was a management trainee at one point. My boss was a management trainee at one point. His boss was a management trainee at one point. So again, it might not be fruitful today as we're in the middle of January for opportunity. We do see lots of opportunity in the next couple of years. And as for on the advancement side, relocation is super important for us. We're the biggest car rental agency in the world. I don't know if you saw, we just acquired Discount and are in the process of getting that changed over. So, in the last 10 years, we've acquired Discount, we've acquired National, we've acquired Alamo, and our company wants to grow, and we want to get people in the door that want to move up and get promoted. So, we really don't see, a better fit for people who are looking for work experience, looking for sales and marketing experience, looking for customer service, leadership, looking for a career at the end of the day than with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I guess that was a little bit of a long-winded, but we do see opportunity and we see lots of room for advancement for our new employees in the next 2 to 4 years.
No, that's great to hear. I'm sure it's very exciting for new employees, especially to see a company's growth. So I'm going to move on to the last question I have prepared here. And I'm going to start with Blair. The previous questions all related to getting a job. So now that we're taking a look at a human resource management as a career path, what advice would you give to someone considering a career in this field?
That's a great question. So I'll remember my first day at Grand Thornton over 10 years ago when I was a new grad from an HR program. So I think within HR, I think my advice would be, really be open to the opportunity. I took a 3-month term that turned into a 1-year contract, which turned into my career today. So I think taking a risk on an opportunity that may not be that full-time, ideal position that you're looking for. You just don't know how, where it will take you and what contacts you'll make as part of that. So I think that's important. And I think just being open-minded to the work. I think when we have HR interns in the past or co-ops, just always someone who's really interested in just learning anything big or small and taking on opportunities that may even seem a bit more administrative at the onset. They're all really good building blocks for your future career in HR.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you now, Susan. Again, all of our questions were related to getting a job. So now that we're looking at it as a potential career path, someone who's on the edge about it, considering it, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, and I guess the toughest part is getting that first opportunity. That there are so many people who are in an HR program, and right now, unfortunately, with the downturn in the economy, that HR probably did experience some cuts in terms of their staffing, because I know that we did with our organization. So don't be afraid to take that opportunity, like Blair said, that may not be perfect. It's going to build the experience that you have. And for the students that don't have that experience already, then again, take the internships, take the co-ops, be willing to get that, even if it's an unpaid experience, it will put you head and shoulders above someone else who doesn't have that experience. So get that under your belt, however you have to do it. So, certainly that is kind of the first point. And then as you kind of, gain experience, again, don't be afraid to, when you're in a position, although maybe you're hired as kind of that coordinator or administrative level position, don't be afraid to, when there's an opportunity, say, would you like me to take that on? How can I help you? So grow your experience by volunteering to take on duties that are outside of kind of your normal responsibilities. Work with whoever is in your department, or maybe it's outside of your department, to volunteer to take on those additional responsibilities so that you can really grow your experience. Because again, that makes you that promotable candidate, whether it is in your own organization or another organization.
Yeah, sometimes we're surprised about the opportunities that appear in front of us. So Nick, I'm going to swing over to you. Again, we've talked about getting the job, but we want to know what advice you're giving to someone who's considering this career path themselves.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I think many of us, we leave high school and we're unsure. We go into university and you kind of feel things out. And then many of you have landed in HR. Maybe you were predetermined, you knew you were going into HR. The same thing will probably happen when you finish your degree. You're going to get into the workforce, and you'll find that the HR profession is very wide. There's many different areas you can go into, and a few of you will know I 100% want to be a health and safety professional, or a recruiter. And you may have that niche, and you're destined for it. And that's rare. Most of us don't have a clue. We just know we want to be in human resources something. So my advice, if you're in that category, is to broaden your opportunities. Like, don't jump on the first opportunity. I mean, of course, this depends on how the economy is. If there's plenty of jobs, then you can have the luxury of being a bit picky. But also consider things that may not be traditional pathways. Dan described the enterprise management program, and they've been doing that for years. And Enterprise has a fantastic program. That's a non-traditional pathway. You may not consider it. You go, oh, well, that's not an HR path, a traditional HR path. But getting that management experience will give you credibility as an HR professional. I can tell you, in my junior days as an HR professional, managers would come to me and say, I've got this coaching issue, this guy won't do what I'm saying, and I'd be telling him what to do. And meanwhile, I have no management experience, but I've studied HR. I know how people tick, but I've never actually done it myself. And here I am trying to convince him how to, unfortunately I had good relationships and usually it went well. But I'm sure if I had a little bit of a manager experience like they did, the feedback I was giving them based on textbooks or previous coaching experiences would be tenfold more valuable to them. So, I was fortunate that my first position was a generalist, and so I did get the fortunate opportunity to dabble in everything and figure out what I was good at and what I wasn't good at, and then go all in once I figured out what my strengths were and my passions were. So basically, I think my feedback is be open-minded. Don't just dive into the first thing. Try and experience a bit of everything, because you've got a lengthy career ahead of you. You don't want to be 10 years in and you're 8 miles deep into the recruitment and you hate it, and you're thinking to yourself, how do I transfer to a health and safety profession now? I'm gonna have to take like a massive hit to my salary, massive step down. And so just try to jump at opportunities to broaden your experiences and your horizons. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that sounds like something that we can definitely do. And Dan, I'm going to come over to you. Again, what advice would you give to someone who's considering a career in this field?
Yeah, I may not be the best to give advice on this, as I'm not currently in the field, but I did reach out to some colleagues who are in the field, and again, they were highly complimentary about getting into it. As Nick talked about, please don't be hesitant to get into organizations that allow you to grow from the bottom up. Again, it's not everybody's ideal job isn't always sitting and waiting for them once they finish their university degree. But if I can give you some advice on getting into a job, just always get yourself in a promotable position. Make sure that you're ready. Make sure, as Blair talked about, you're hitting your metrics, that you're a good fit for your job. Again, I wish I could offer more on the HR side of things. I'm not in HR, but again, the advice that Susan, Blair, and Nick gave you is all great. And if I don't get the opportunity to do it, thank you guys very much for having me on the panel.
And sorry, and I just wanted to share, to Nick's point, kind of my personal experience. So when I first graduated from my HR program, actually when I first went into the HR program, HR jobs were aplenty. That everybody was getting a position offered right after they graduated. So we all thought, this is fantastic. We've chosen the right option. However, the economy turned. By the time that I graduated, HR positions were very few. And so my first position outside when I graduated was actually with a leasing company as a customer service rep. So again, but because it was a larger company, it was First City Trust, who unfortunately is no longer, but it was within the leasing division. And from that opportunity of customer service, because I got to learn kind of the industry, then I moved into a training and development role, which they actually created for me within the leasing department. And from there, I moved into the training department within the corporate environment. So, you know, again, untraditional pathways can build those opportunities for you. And so when I was always lucky enough during my summers to get HR related positions. So I had salary and benefit position with a mining company. So, you know, great experience, but it certainly taught me that I didn't want to have 100% of my focus as salary and benefits. So each of those different positions will help you determine what is it that you like to do, and if you want to be a generalist or whether you want to specialize in something. And also taking positions in different industries will help you understand kind of what type of work environment that you would like to be in. So financial services, wonderful environment, but not as dynamic as a hospitality environment. And so, you know, my days were a lot more structured in the financial industry, which is great, but I like the, and I'm not going to say chaos, I like the uncertainty, the variety that this industry brings. And I like being able to interact with the associates within my work environment, because that's something that happens on a daily basis. Whereas when you're in that corporate environment, it's very rare that I would actually speak to one of the associates. I would typically only be interacting with the HR team. So all of those experiences will help you understand what your preferences are.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities under this umbrella that you don't even realize. Like you said, there can be positions created and everything. So I just we're getting towards the end of our panel here, and I want to know if any of you have any last thoughts to add for our students. Anything in addition that you'd like to share some wise wisdom? Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for each of you for giving us your advice. We could follow up with some student inquiries afterwards, but we've run out of time for today. So thank you again to our panelists and our students for coming in. And just a reminder that our CEO panel is up next at 10:30. Okay, thank you and see ya.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.